Welcome to the Geekcentric podcast. On today's episode, we're getting big thunder on the big screen. We're talking Wednesday on a Wednesday, and we embrace the new lord of IP. All this and everything else that happened this week in Geek.
Love ya. Get home safe, guys. Peace.
Hey, it's Nate, and if you're joining us for the first time, we are Geekcentric, a podcast celebrating the world of movies, TV shows, toys, collectibles, gaming, and all things geek-centric. Joining me on the show for This Week in Geek, he's my national treasure, Justin Lawrence.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Yeah.
I'm so touched that I would be your national treasure.
Well, I mean, there's three of us. There is
so,
three.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
If we each get one, maybe we'll see. But before we get into whatever that means, I wanted to start off by mentioning that we are officially back in Westeros. Justin, it feels so good to be back in Westeros, but I don't think we can. You know what? We'll save the dragon talk for the end of this podcast. Because I actually wanted to kick things off, though. There was a little tease, a little snippet, a little tiny clicker tease of some footage that we got. We actually got our very first footage just before the House of the Dragon premiere. I'm so excited. We got some footage for HBO's The Last of Us. Justin, what did you think? We got Pedro Pascal, we got Bella Ramsey in this brief glimpse of the show.
Well, I love that they, in this little teaser, we got Pedro Pascal as Joel with his line,
The line.
Yeah, the line. You have no idea what loss feels like, and that's great as its own teaser. Just to see him say that, and to also have, we're both fans of the game, so we understand the context of what that means, and the footage that we saw. It looks like we are going to see his story obviously told. I wonder if they're going to follow the same outline as the game, where that's how we're introduced to this situation and into this world is through Joel and through his experience. I thought that was cool, because at least in the trailer, that is very much sort of the first thing that we see among these epic landscape shots that look so beautiful and stunning. The vastness, the scopes of shooting. I believe they're shooting in Calgary, so they're obviously they're putting that landscape to work. But this was the perfect tease for us to get.
Well, it's interesting you bring up the idea of like, how much are they really going to pull in that is exactly like the games? How much are they going to stay away from it? Like the line, "You have no idea what loss is such a powerful moment in the game. So to see it show up in the show like this, and I think the line delivery from Pedro is the right choice for Joel. He's perfect for it. But I am wondering how much they are going to, again, stay to the game or go different. Like they cast Lamar Johnson as Henry and Kayvon Woodard, I believe, as Sam. And there's a bit of a difference in age there for those characters. So they have already announced that, yes, that is going to be a slightly different storyline. And so I feel like they're going to probably do things a little bit differently. But I mean, Bill, like Nick Offerman as Bill here, looks phenomenal.
I loved the shot of him, because it's just it's so Nick Offerman, and it's to see Nick Offerman playing Bill. It's just as much of a character casting that fits very much like Pedro Pascal being casted as Joel. And I think that what's great is that even in this trailer, we get to see how Pedro's really going to bring an emotional resonance to his portrayal of Joel.
And I mean, with the original voice actor, like Troy Baker and Ashley Johnson, who voiced Joel and Ellie, are actually going to be in the show, right? So we've seen pictures of them with Neil Druckmann on set, and so that's super cool too. And again, I think that leads to the idea that, even though the game, like we know the game inside and out because we played it so many times, I think it's going to be really cool to still get those surprises. But I will say the world looks excellent. The idea of I just love the idea, like HBO has the balls to do like an extended scene with no dialogue. You know what I mean? Like, just like give me a 10-minute scene of no dialogue because Joel and Ellie can't make any sounds or talk for certain parts of the game, and put that in there. Give me the crunch of snow as they walk across the bridge. Like, the footage that they showed looks perfect. And I will say, there is a scene that we do see with him running with Sarah, who I can't remember the actress who plays Sarah, but I even got a little choked up just because I know what they're running towards. And for anyone who's played the game, you know what they're running towards in that moment. And so, yeah, dude, I'm so stoked for this.
It's going to be interesting, though, because I think we've talked about it numerous times. It's like, did this really need to be a series? It's going to be great. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But like the game itself was such a fulfilling and complete experience as its own art form and medium that I don't know. This is the big question that the series will answer. Is it going to be worth it?
And I think that's what's going to really be the major measure of success for the show when it does debut. Hopefully sometime, I guess next year is, I think, what they're aiming for. So we will have to wait and see. I guess House of the Dragons that's HBO's big thing this year to kick us off. And then hopefully early next year, I'm hoping Last of Us is maybe what we kind of focus on. But listen, we've got a ton of news and trailers to get to. So let's just get to the news.
It's all about the details.
All right, our first news story here. The Lord of the Rings has a new rights owner. This comes from Ollie Welsh over at Polygon. Embracer Group, the ambitious, acquisition-hungry Swedish gaming conglomerate, that's a mouthful, has bought the rights to make films, games, merchandise, and theme parks based on J.R.R. Tolkien's The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit. The deal comes as a surprise, reporting on the anticipated sale of the rights by the Saul Zaentz company early this year. Variety said the buyer was expected to be a Hollywood studio or tech giant. Amazon, which is about to debut its streaming series, The Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power, was a prime candidate. I like that writing there, Ollie. Variety also said the rights were expected to sell for at least $2 billion. Although the purchase price was undisclosed, it appears that Embracer has acquired Middle-earth Enterprises, the Zaentz company subsidiary that owns the rights, for significantly less than that. Embracer announced the deal alongside 5 other smaller acquisitions, limited run games, which if you're a gamer, that's a pretty big deal for them to get limited run. They also, I believe, Tripwire Interactive, the developer and publisher of games like Killing Floor and Maneater, Singtrix, a company that creates vocal effects technology for karaoke and gaming, and Tuxedo Labs, developer of the destruction game Teardown. The 6th and final acquisition remains a secret for now, but Embracer said that it was the 3rd or 4th largest of the deals, so it's not major. In a financial note, Embracer said the likely total cost of acquiring the 6 businesses over a period of time is expected to be 8.2 billion Swedish krona, which is around $788 million. Even if we assume the value of Middle-earth Enterprises makes up the vast majority of that sum, it's still less than half of what the prized Lord of the Rings rights were expected to fetch. Middle-earth Enterprises, and now Embracer, owns the worldwide rights to make films, video games, board games, merchandise, theme parks, and stage productions relating to the Lord of the Rings trilogy and The Hobbit. But there are several caveats and exemptions and question marks over the extent of these rights. For instance, the publishing rights to the books themselves are not included. They remain with the Tolkien estate and publisher HarperCollins. The licensing rights to Tolkien's other Middle-earth works, The Silmarillion and The Unfinished Tales of Númenor and Middle-earth, are also still controlled by the Tolkien estate and HarperCollins, although Embracer says it now owns matching rights to these works, meaning it has the right to match any offer the owners may get from elsewhere. TV rights are another major exclusion. Per Variety, the right to produce a TV series longer than 8 episodes was carved out of the deal Tolkien's estate made with Saul Zaentz back in 1970, meaning that Amazon was able to deal with the estate directly when it bought those rights in 2017, cutting Middle-earth Enterprises out of the deal. Nevertheless, Embracer says Middle-earth Enterprises has financial interests in The Rings of Power, as well as in Warner Bros.' upcoming animated film, The War of Rohirrim, and EA's in-development mobile game, Heroes of Middle-earth. Finally, there is a question mark over the extent of the film's rights Embracer has just bought. Warner Bros., though its subsidiary New Line Cinema, the studio behind Peter Jackson's The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit trilogy, has held the rights for years. But prior to the sale, the Saul Zaentz company was arguing that the rights reverted to it in 2021 because Warner Bros. Had not been actively developing new film projects. According to Variety, Warner Bros. Didn't agree, and it's entirely possible, Ollie writes, that the War of the Rohirrim was greenlit precisely so Warner Bros. Lawyers couldn't dispute this claim. That's the only reason it seems they might be making that series. I mean, beyond the idea that it's a dope-ass series.
It happens a lot. It happens a lot.
So that's a lot of asterisks, in particular if there have been developments in the legal wrangle with Warner Bros. That makes, and I mean, they've got a lot of problems right now. So that makes the film rights look even slightly less secure, and that would have deterred many Hollywood buyers and maybe brought down the asking price of Middle-earth Enterprises, just with everything that might be going on at WB. So, Justin, with one Embracer group to rule them all, one Embracer group to find them, one Embracer group to bring them all, and in the darkness buy them, what are your thoughts on this huge acquisition, and how do you think it could affect The Lord of the Rings going forward?
So I think that it's safe to say that they're probably going to be collaborators that are going to financially benefit. From a gaming standpoint, though, this is a world that should be expanded. Because, honestly, it seems like the Lord of the Rings mythology and the lore is pretty perfect for a gaming experience. And I think, honestly, it's immensely valuable for Lord of the Rings to expand their lore through gaming.
I mean, we have, Middle-earth, Shadow of Mordor, those games from EA have been, pretty popular. Or sorry, Monolith Productions is the one that developed those. Have been pretty popular, and I think from a standpoint of those games, they're far enough away from the official, The Lord of the Rings or The Hobbit, in the sense that they play within that world, but they don't have to necessarily be, who owns the rights to the word orcs and that sort of thing. One thing I will say, though, is, to me, I'm not so much worried about the games as I am just the characters. I think, I think when you have the world and these characters stretched out over so many different companies, it starts to get a little bit worrisome for I think the fandom, because I know Rings of Power isn't taking place during the time frame of The Hobbit or the Lord of the Rings trilogy, but I imagine that there's going to be maybe more seasons of the Amazon show, and so you have to think, they might plan on bringing in some of these characters who live for hundreds of years within this world. Maybe they near the end of this show's run, they had plans to bring in some of these characters that now maybe they don't have access to, right? As much as Embracer Group wants to see the financial well-being of that show, it's is Amazon going to be like, oh, well, we really want to bring in this specific elf, but they are a part of the rights for The Lord of the Rings or The Hobbit, right? And it's it reminds me so much of what's going on with Marvel and Spider-Man, where Marvel can use certain characters, but not all of them because of Sony, right? Or the fact that we didn't get X-Men for so long within the MCU. It's how does this affect going forward? Does this mean we don't get Legolas referenced in anything outside Embracer Group's projects, right? Again, this is just where it starts to get really dicey, and I think it's actually more of a detriment to a franchise like this when these things happen, rather than a good thing, because you know what? I'll be honest with you. Embracer Group has been eating up. They used to be THQ Nordic. They've been eating up and buying and buying and buying so many things. They haven't made anything. They really haven't made anything of note lately that has really taken the world by storm. They've done a few things, but honestly, it's what are they buying for? What show me your work, Embracer Group. I want to see your work. If they play nice with Amazon and we get an interconnected world, that's fine with me. I hope it does, because I think the scary part for me is that we just don't know. If it was Disney buying them, we know the pedigree, we know the track record, right? If this was the Lord of the Rings owned by Disney, awesome. Even if this was the Lord of the Rings owned by Amazon wholeheartedly at this point, I'd kind of be behind it, because the Rings of Power looks fantastic, and obviously time will tell if that series actually is going to be everything we want it to be from Amazon with that property. But it's just the fact that for me, it's just scary because I just don't know who's the new holder of the ring.
We don't know anything about it. No, yeah. Who holds the ring of power? I totally
Right.
get it, and I think you're right. I think it's about collaboration and the two working together, and to know
so.
that it's going to benefit both parties. I think that's very much what is to be celebrated from the relationship between Marvel and Sony, is that they can come together, work on a project, and benefit from it on both ends. Granted, Sony will go rogue and do their own Spider-Verse things that are far less impactful and far less meaningful. And, fans know that. Fans know and recognize that when Sony and Marvel are working together versus when Sony decides to go and make a Morbius. So I think it's just about us as fans understanding and trusting in the creative process and knowing how to draw the line between the two.
Well, I don't know, man. With Embracer Group just buying everything, next thing you know, they'll start buying rights to old Disney theme park rides. Our next story, Big Thunder Mountain movie in the works from Disney and Hawkeye duo Bert and Bertie. This comes from Aaron Couch of The Hollywood Reporter. Hawkeye directors Bert and Bertie are staying in the Disney family. The duo, who helmed 3 episodes of the Marvel Disney Plus series, have signed on to direct a feature for Disney based on the theme park attraction Big Thunder Mountain. Margot Robbie's Lucky Chap Entertainment and Ridley Scott's Scott Free will produce, with Bert and Bertie directing from a script by Kieran and Michelle Mulroney. The married screenwriting pair whose credits include Sherlock Holmes, A Game of Shadows, and the 2017 Power Rangers reboot. Big Thunder Mountain, which is at multiple Disney parks, takes place in a mining town amid the gold rush of the 1800s. Disaster inevitably strikes the attraction, which is hit by either an earthquake in California and Paris, tsunami in Tokyo, or a flash flood in Florida. A decade ago, Disney-owned network ABC developed a Western pilot based on the attraction from writer of Ice Age Continental Drift, Jason Fuchs, and Fast and Furious scribe Chris Morgan executive producing. That series didn't even make it off the ground. Disney has already struck gold in the past by turning its theme park attractions into films, with the Pirates of the Caribbean spawning 5 films that starred Johnny Depp, and it released Dwayne Johnson and Emily Blunt's Jungle Cruise amid the pandemic, and it also has the Rosario Dawson starrer Haunted Mansion due out in 2023. British duo Bert and Bertie directed the Sundance feature Troop Zero and recently helmed episodes of the HBO Max series Our Flag Means Death, which is promising. Deadline first reported the news of their involvement in the Big Thunder Mountain films. Justin, how familiar are you with the Big Thunder Mountain ride, and does this do anything for you?
I'm familiar with the ride. I've never been on it. It's at Magic Kingdom, if I'm not mistaken. Is it at Disneyland too?
It's in both. I feel like it would be something that you might have seen and then purposely stayed away from because of your back. It's super rickety and it's kind of shaky. And I've ridden both of them in California and Florida. I had no idea that it was supposed to be like an earthquake or a flash flood subplot involved. It's barely even established that it's an old mine. To me, it's just a train on a mountain. So I think, to me, I don't know what to expect from a movie like this, and I think that might be where it even might have more potential than something like a Jungle Cruise. You know what I mean? Because there's really not too many expectations that they could be ruining for fans. There's not going to be anyone out there that's like, oh, the train doesn't look the same as on the ride, so now I'm not going to see your movie. I think there's so much that they could do to craft a story in and around it, and maybe even push Disney to update some of the lore and make it a little bit more of a presence at the park. Because I think the ride itself, for fans of Disney, is a very iconic, it's been around forever kind of ride, but it just, to me, I just don't think there's really a story.
Right. I think what you mentioned about sort of the cross-pollination, they do a movie, they steep it in a historical lore.
Yeah.
They make it very relevant. And maybe what they do is they bring that over and help rebrand the ride while still keeping the nostalgia of Big Thunder. I think that's a win. That's a way to refresh the ride. I think that's what Tomorrowland almost was meant to do in some ways as a movie, to kind of refresh the park, but it did not. Anyways, we'll see how it goes, because as mentioned with Tomorrowland, I think it's an interesting choice to try to take a ride and expand it to tell a meaningful story around a ride. Like, I think that is the art of doing a movie like this. I love Bert and Bertie. I think that they're a great duo, true. And they did great stuff with Hawkeye and most recently Our Flag Means Death. And I think it's going to be interesting to see how, with the writing duo, they wrote Power Rangers from 2007, which was an okay movie. It wasn't great, but it had some camp because it's Power Rangers. And at the end of the day, this movie could benefit from some camp.
I'm most excited about the connections to Our Flag Means Death. I think, if anything, that means that maybe we might get like a really solid cast here. And I think bringing in I think that's what you need in order to carry something like this. Is you need to have that solid cast that people are going to be like, I want to go see the movie for that reason.
Yeah, and I think, with Margot Robbie's production company, Lucky Chap, behind this movie, I think it's great. It might even be a bit subtle hint that she could potentially be in this movie, but I don't know. She's pretty busy, and I'm sure she's got a lot on her plate. But, again, having someone like, Ridley Scott behind it, it's going to have production value. So I'm interested.
Margot Robbie, Ridley Scott, they're both also, I think, just like you, they're national treasures. Our third story here, National Treasure 3, script is in the works and being sent to not the beast, Nicolas Cage, very soon, according to Jerry Bruckheimer. This comes from Ryan Scott at Slash Film. For the first time in a long time, we may have some actual hope that National Treasure 3 might just be happening. We're still a pretty long ways away from the long-awaited sequel actually getting a green light from Disney, but mega producer Jerry Bruckheimer did just offer an encouraging update on the matter, indicating that Nicolas Cage will hopefully have a script in his hands in the not-too-distant future. Bruckheimer is currently promoting the home video release of Top Gun Maverick and had a chat. It's so weird to say home video release of Top Gun. It's like, no, the streaming release of Top Gun Maverick, whatever. And had a chat with the folks at comicbook.com. During the conversation, the producer gave an update on the sequel that has seemingly been stalled out for years now. As Bruckheimer tells it, the script is currently being worked on. He thinks it's good, and they intend to send it to Cage soon. Quote, "We're working on the script right now. Hopefully Cage likes it, but it's really good. So I think we'll be getting it to him shortly." It is a little unclear at the moment who precisely is working on the script, as the film has been quietly in development for a very long time, as National Treasure Book of Secrets came out way back in 2007. But this is a promising development directly from one of the key creatives involved. So my question here, Justin, in terms of this actually happening, how much do you think this has to do with the success of the Disney Plus show?
Well, I think that would definitely be a huge part in them greenlighting. I think it's also just having the script, right? But again, if they can get a good script and get Nicolas Cage on board, then that's enough. Like, literally, that's enough.
Yeah.
Right. For them to, I would think, at least, to greenlight it. You have Jerry Bruckheimer behind it, right? You have the actor that was in the other two movies. You bring back the other cast, which will more than likely come back because Nick Cage is coming back. I feel like, if anything, the series is a way for them to keep the world relevant and maybe have some hints at the potential of a National Treasure 3 in the show itself,
right,
that can help hint at it and build towards that. It might be really smart, because a lot of people would say, well, why wouldn't you do the movie and then have the movie lead into the series? No, maybe it's about introducing a new world, a new history. We talked about that trailer and the relevancy of diversity and culture and what it meant to be American, rather than, the other two movies that did focus on very, in my opinion, very white historical representation of Americans.
Yeah.
I think the show is going to definitely tap into the immigrant side, the mixed culture of being an immigrant living in America or coming from an immigrant family. That is from America. I don't know. I would be interested to see if they can somehow, again, I'm going to use this word, cross-pollinate from the show into the movie to help give the movie a little bit more weight and maybe bring some of those characters over and some of the mystery.
Well, I think that's an interesting idea, right? Because I think we've got audiences who I think they're, we say this all the time, but they're trying to Force Awakens-ize the National Treasure cinematic universe, right? Right. And so they're doing that, and if they're getting people on board from this being their starting point, right? How can they bring those people into the franchise as a whole and then into the movie? Like, do we get a season 2 with like a cliffhanger, or even a season 3 with a cliffhanger that ties directly into a National Treasure 3? And I think Nick Cage showing up and saying, we've got to go on this adventure would be really cool. I'm just wondering how much, they're already in talks with each other. They have to be. I think you got to imagine they've already gotten feedback from test audiences for the show, right? And so they've probably been able to navigate whether or not it's a good idea to blend those storylines. I think it'll be interesting because I could see it going either way. Like, I could see them wholeheartedly like finding out like, oh, the show really isn't going to get past the season 1. It's not doing that well, and so we're just gonna imagine that didn't happen and bring it right back to the movies. I hope that's not the case. Like, I do want the show to succeed based on the cast and the premise, but I'm not. I don't know, man. It really, for me, I think it could go either way.
Yeah. And we know in the series, Justin Bartha is returning, and that's enough of a connective tissue to at least let us know that the world of that Nicolas Cage, his Benjamin Franklin Gates, character is out there in the world where the series is taking place. I don't think it's that far-fetched to say that they can connect those stories, but I think it's just a matter of updating the tone, so making it a little bit more fresh and modern, but keeping that consistency from the series into the movie with maybe a little bit more of elevated stakes, because you are getting into a more cinematic or movie adventure level style story.
We'll have to see if this movie stays on track. But listen, let's get to our fourth and final story. Kind of a two-part story here. Jeff Keighley's opening night live happened today as of this recording for Gamescom 2022 in Germany. And there were a few things that were announced, and then there was something that was announced a few days ago. But I wanted to kind of talk a little bit about them because they work together. So this first story here, DualSense Edge wireless controller announced. This is coming from PlayStation Blog. Today, we are thrilled to unveil the DualSense Edge wireless controller for PlayStation 5, the first ever high-performance, ultra-customizable controller developed by Sony Interactive Entertainment, designed to give you an edge, and that's based on the name, in gameplay by allowing you to create custom controls. The DualSense Edge wireless controller invites you to craft your own unique gaming experience tailored to your playstyle. In the months ahead, we look forward to sharing more details about the DualSense Edge wireless controller, including launch timing, and can't wait to see how the PS5 community unlocks the full potential of the controller's customization options. It's going to come with a case that you can charge it in. It's got back buttons, remappable controls. Justin, have you ever been interested in these pro customizable controllers? Have you ever kind of tried them out before?
I haven't tried them. I've always been interested in them because I didn't realize they existed. I think it was actually you that might have introduced me to the idea that you can do that. And I know that people have been able to get, like, I guess, third-party options for the PlayStation, if I'm not mistaken, which makes this really interesting because Sony is now saying, no, we're going to start doing that. And I think the DualSense technology that's in this controller, like, I don't think we've fully unlocked it. We haven't really gotten the full potential. Well, I haven't, at least. I know you game far more frequently than myself, but from the games that I've been playing on my PS5, I haven't really seen the full utilization of this controller. So I'm hoping that, again, with the introduction of this new controller, and obviously with new games on the horizon for this the platform, the two will go hand in hand, and it'll really create an enhanced experience. But this thing looks crazy.
Yeah, it looks sick.
You can adjust the sticks. You have like additional dials and stuff like that for all sorts of stuff. So I'm interested. I'm pretty sure I'll pick one up for sure.
Yeah, it looks really neat. It looks like it's kind of got, if you've seen a DualSense controller on the PS5, instead of the white face buttons, it's black face buttons. It's got a instead of a matte finish, it looks like a gloss finish. on the bottom part, on the black part. And then, of course, it does have the adjustable grips and sort of buttons on the back end there. And it also looks like you are able to adjust the amount of, I guess, give on the triggers, which is common for these controllers. But I'm wondering how that actually works with the DualSense, given the haptic feedback, right, and how that actually works. And I think it's cool the fact that you can have custom profiles for the controller and I believe they said it actually links to your actual profile. So by logging in with one person, if you're logging in and holding the controller, it switches. I do own a Pro controller. On the other side of things, I have the Microsoft Halo Master Chief 117 Elite 2 controller, and I gotta say, I think the thing that I like about it the most isn't even the fact that I can click little buttons on the back if I want to make my character jump or reload without having to move my fingers off of certain buttons or sticks. I think the thing that I love about it the most is the weight. So I'm really hoping that this controller, just based off the fact that it has all this additional stuff on it and in it, that it's going to be heavier. Because I do think that just even it feeling heavier feels more premium. Like it feels like it's just like I don't know. It sounds so silly, but like as a gamer, you don't want to be holding plastic controllers. Like it's like a tool. You know what I mean? It's a tool to bring you into these other worlds. And so I don't know. It honestly, it takes some of that immaturity out of the gaming space that I think it is unfortunately still known for. And so I think if they can make this thing feel even more premium than the DualSense, I'm so in.
It really does get in on the idea of customization, which I think is very relevant for today. Everyone wants things customized to their own liking,
right,
to their own settings, to their own lifestyle, even, if you would. So I think that, again, Sony tapping into the idea of selling their own pro level, adjustable, customizable controller, like I think that's a huge win for them. And also with their technology of the DualSense at the center of it, like, yeah, it's going to do well.
And there's some rumors that people are saying that it might, on the blog itself, people are saying this might come out in November alongside God of War Ragnarok, because I think one of the things is saying, like, whether you're facing the Norse gods and monsters in God of War Ragnarok or rival players in an online battle royale. So I think just with that little hint there, people are thinking this might come out at that time, and I would even be curious to see if we get a special edition version of this controller that is God of War themed. I think would be absolutely nuts. It would sell like crazy, and that's if you can even get your hands on anything PlayStation 5 by that point, because the consoles are still selling out extremely fast. But listen, there's one more PlayStation story that I wanted to quickly talk about, and this happened a few days ago. PSVR 2, PlayStation's next-gen VR headset, will be coming sometime in early 2023. This comes from Matt Kim at IGN. According to multiple PlayStation social media sites across Twitter and Instagram, the next-gen PlayStation VR headset has locked in a release window sometime in the early months of next year. The window was confirmed on PlayStation's official Instagram account, as well as numerous PlayStation regional Twitter accounts from France and Brazil. PSVR 2 is Sony's next virtual reality headset. According to Sony, PSVR 2 will feature an OLED display with 2000 by 2040 pixels per eye and a refresh rate of up to 120 hertz. It utilizes inside-out eye tracking and will have a 110-degree field of view. Sony also announced that PSVR 2 will have over 20 games at launch. The company is also developing exclusive VR games for the headset, including Horizon Call of the Mountain, based on the popular Horizon series. So, Justin, is this what it's going to take to get you into a VR headset? What is your experience with VR?
I've experienced VR, I think, with you twice. I think the first time was at Fan Expo, and then the second time was at a house party. Yes, that's what we do at a house party. We do VR. So
100%.
Anyways, yeah. It was an interesting experience. I don't know if I'm really. I think this is where age kind of becomes that factor. It's like VR is interesting. Don't get me wrong, and especially in a educational way. I think it's really cool.
Yeah.
I think from a gaming standpoint, it's a little disorienting for me. I don't necessarily have. I feel like I'm slower on the reactions and reflexes. I think that was most evident when I did it for the first time, which again, it's my first time. But
Right.
I think we were playing Iron Man at Fan Expo in 2019.
Yep.
And yeah, it might have been 2019, 2018. I think might have been it either two. I'm not sure. But yeah, it was a different experience that I wasn't necessarily like, whoa, life changing. Like I've seen some VR experiences where it's just, you're looking at nature and stuff like that, and that's been more of a whoa, this is an intense sort of experience. But I'm not necessarily interacting with the game. I think the only game I really enjoyed in VR was Beat Sabers.
Yeah,
I thought that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, Beat Saber's fantastic.
Yeah,
I think
it's great.
I think the exercise world has definitely embraced Beat Saber, and there's a bunch of other games as well for the Oculus and different things like that. I think for me, I'm all in on VR as much as we possibly can. However, that being said, my PSVR 1 is in my closet because PlayStation 5 came out, didn't have a way to hook it up, and you need to order an adapter cable. I never did, and it just sort of sat there. And honestly, I'm looking forward to some of these games like Iron Man VR, like Moss 2, for instance, to come out hopefully for the PSVR 2, which I do plan on picking up. I'm just hoping that we get more support for it than we did with the PSVR 1.
Yeah.
And I think the only thing that's kind of bumming me out is that it's still attached to the console. That being said, it is through a single USB-C cable, which is really nice considering the fact that, like, the original one, if you've ever set up a PSVR, it is like a snake parade. Like, there is like cables plugging into like a box that plugs into other cables that plugs into the wall that then plugs into your console, and it's a headache to set it up and to take it down. So to the fact that the idea of just being able to plug in a single USB-C port onto the front of your PlayStation 5, I'm excited for it. So I'm very intrigued. And the better tech that's going into it seems like it's going to be a good experience.
It sounds like you have a little bit of buyer's remorse for that first one. Jeez, like that sounds like a nightmare.
Well, here's
right?
the thing.
But like, it shows that Sony didn't even really care enough to give a proper support system so that you could carry over the VR one to your PS5 experience. They were either like, oh, we're just going to come out with the VR 2 sooner, and that probably got delayed, or they were just like, we're going to work on something better.
I think the first theory that you had there is what it was. I think COVID really messed up these plans for PSVR, because I will say, like, they were putting out a decent amount of games, but there wasn't enough first party support. Like the fact that they've already announced a Horizon VR game and there's already footage out for it and gameplay, like that to me is a little more promising for this next version of PSVR, that we're gonna maybe get more first party stuff, because I think that's the main thing. I don't think you can rely on indies to draw in that audience for a headset that you need a PS5 for as well. Because if it's just indies that an audience is going to care about, they're going to go and pick up the MetaQuest 2. You know what I mean? Like that's a cheaper alternative, and all-in-one unit. It doesn't have maybe the same graphical prowess as this might have, but if people, the idea is like, if it's God of War, if it's Horizon, right? If it's these
there's
staple games,
there's
right? If you're bringing
connected.
in Spider-Man. Yeah. Insomniac's X-Men, Wolverine, for PSVR 2, that's what's going to drive your sales, right?
Yeah, so it's the properties, it's the games. That's why there's a big line between Xbox and PS5. It's based on what games you like to play and what's accessible on those consoles, right? So yeah, that makes total sense as a strategy to help push this technology. So yeah, there's a lot of games coming out that will help sell that VR for sure.
Hopefully. Well, listen, that is it for news. I've got to just quickly check in. Is Kevin here? Did we get Kevin here?
It's trailer time.
All right, our first trailer here, The Greatest Beer Run Ever. This is directed by Peter Farrelly, or Farrelly. The description is
Farley,
Is it Farley? Well, Chicky wants to support his friends fighting in Vietnam, so he does something wild. Personally, bring them American beer. What starts as a well-meaning journey quickly changes Chicky's life and perspective based on a true story. This is starring Zac Efron, Russell Crowe, and Bill Murray alongside Archie Raynaud, Jake Picking, Will Ropp, and Kyle Allen. And this is streaming exclusively on Apple TV Plus on September 30th, 2022. Justin, what did you think of the trailer for the greatest beer run ever?
I was very surprised by it. I think this movie is going to be a lot of fun, especially coming from Peter Farrelly, one of the two from the Farrelly brothers, who's directed some pretty fun, quirky movies. Are you familiar with the Farrelly brothers, Nate?
I mean, outside of Dumb and Dumber, I don't think so.
Yeah, so apart from Dumb and Dumber, they've done Kingpin, There's Something About Mary, Me, Myself, and Irene, also with Jim Carrey. Osmosis Jones, I don't know if you ever saw that.
Oh, I loved Osmosis Jones.
Right? Shallow Hal.
Okay.
Shallow Hal.
Okay.
They did Stuck on You, Fever Pitch, which was a great one, Heartbreak Kid, Hall Pass, Three Stooges. Like they've done a bunch. And Peter Farrelly did Green Book, which won him an Academy Award. I saw that movie a long time ago, and I saw it once, and it had the right balance of drama and comedy, but it was also very biographical in nature based on its topic. And here you have yet again a balance of comedy and drama, but then there's this sense of war-style adventure. I think this is going to be a lot of fun. I think this is going to be another one of those Oscar contenders, especially with a performance from Zac Efron in this movie. It looks like, him juxtaposed with someone like Russell Crowe, who is obviously a journalist covering the war, and his buddies who are soldiers. He's surrounded by people that are doing what they can do to support the cause, right? Soldiers fighting, a journalist telling the story, and here he is, Chicky, dropping beers for the soldiers, which is serving as almost like the underdog hero story here. It's very much like it feels, this trailer very much captures the idea of how his efforts served as a moral boost for these soldiers and for these people to understand what they were fighting for, or what they were fighting in Nam. Again, that's a war that the U.S. should have never gotten into, and that's a whole other topic.
Right.
But the idea that his friends and all of his, maybe even family, we haven't really fully explored that, are off in this war fighting, and he feels like he's doing nothing. He wants to give back. He wants to help those people that are giving their life aimlessly for a cause that they don't need to be involved, right? There was a lot of discussion around that time about why the U.S. was involved in that. It
looks like a very different role than we're used to with Zac Efron, which I'm kind of excited about. I think fantastic stash, like that Chicky stash, like that is a nice mustache. I do wonder on, like, I think it's going to focus on like the good and the bad of the military during the Vietnam War. There's one character that says, like, you don't know who the good guys are and who the bad guys are. And I've heard some critics say, like, after seeing this trailer, that they're worried that it could glamorize the U.S. military during this time. But I kind of get the impression that it's going to do the opposite. Like, I think maybe we see Chicky learn that there's good and bad on both sides, and like his impressions, or what his sort of thoughts of what the war is. He has no idea going into this of what to expect, and this experience is what changes him. And there's this really intriguing scene where he's just standing on the road, and there's just this little, like, Vietnamese girl, like, just standing there crying. And so I'm really intrigued by where this movie is going to go. And I think you're right. Like, we could be seeing like a potential Oscar level performance from Zac Efron, at least maybe a nomination. I'm very intrigued by this trailer. I think it's going to be really great.
Yeah. I was also thinking of the scene when he's in the helicopter in the trailer, and it looks like they're holding someone outside of the helicopter, and Chicky doesn't understand why. And he seems to be kind of getting like just like, whoa, like, stop, like you're being too aggressive, like almost standing up. Like, I absolutely think you're right. I don't necessarily think that this is going to glorify the American military. I think it's actually going to, very much like all the other content in and around Nam, questions the American military's role and their involvement in this. But I also think that it's also to highlight the fact that soldiers went over there because their country told them to.
Right.
Again, Zac Efron looks like he's pulling it all out of his back pocket, and he's going to give us a very drama-centric performance with nuances of comedy. This nuance of I guess like a sort of man-childish, persona.
Sure, yeah.
that has good intentions, that is very motivated, and I think is motivated by the power of his friendship and his family with those who are probably fighting in the war. So Zac Efron might be making a pull for an Oscar nomination.
It'd be super interesting to find out. I do want to correct. I did say streaming exclusively on Apple TV Plus on September 30th. It is also going to get a theatrical run as well. I just don't know exactly where that is, if it's going to be a limited run or if it's going to be in America and Canada. But yeah, I think along the lines of like the movie speaking to not necessarily glamorizing the U.S. military. It's Apple TV. And if anything, if we know about Apple TV, a lot of the content on Apple TV has a message that is generally rooted
yeah.
in sort of trying to break down some things that people believe,
perceptions,
right? Perceptions,
yes,
and things
exactly.
Like that. So,
exactly. Yeah.
So I'm looking forward.
I
to
totally
this
agree with you. I totally agree with you.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really good. Let's move to our next trailer here for Barbarian. Oh my gosh, dude. Okay, this is written and directed by Zach Kreger. A young woman discovers the rental home she booked is already occupied by a stranger. Against her better judgment, she decides to spend the night, but soon discovers there's a lot more to fear than just an unexpected house guest. This is starring Georgina Campbell, Bill Skarsgård, Justin Long, Matthew Patrick Davis, Richard Brake, Kurt Braunohler, James Butler, and Zach Kreger himself, and is in theaters on September 9th. Justin, this looks freaking amazing. I'm so excited for this.
Yeah, I know. And just to give our listeners a heads up, we will be covering this movie with a special interview with the director. That said, watching this trailer, hearing the buzz around it, and knowing that we're going to go see it, and I'm not a horror movie guy.
No.
I watch horror movies. It's just I can't watch them in theaters because they really do get me, and I'm like shaking and stuff like that. So watching this trailer and thinking that I'm going to sit in a dark theater and have friggin' 50-foot screen in front of me, I'm already terrified. I'm like, it's like me going on like the world's scariest ride. I'm like, I have to like work up to it and like psych myself out and just get in there and enjoy it. But this looks insane, and it looks like terrifying, and there's not much that they've really given us other than this hints of like a little house that looks both demonic, yet at the end, as we were talking, it looks very pristine and clean. So I don't know if we're going to see the evolution of how the house started that way and how it becomes this, and what's beneath it, what's in the basement. I love that notion from horror movies, like the trailers perceiving it one way and then the movie actually doing something else. I think Cabin in the Woods, if I'm not mistaken, was one with Chris Hemsworth, and that one very much had that notion of what you thought it was, and then you go and you enjoy the movie, and it's totally not that. So I feel like that's what this movie's giving us. It's when we get there, it's going to be something entirely different. That's I feel like it's going to be very thought provoking.
This trailer reminded me of something we'd get from A24. I think it looks like dark and I think they're doing a bit of a fake out with Bill Skarsgård's character named Keith, where you go into this and you're like, oh, Pennywise is in this, so he's the bad guy. I definitely think they're doing a fake out here. He's not the bad guy. The audio in this trailer is nuts. Like, if you think that you're going to be able to go to this movie and close your eyes and be okay and not be scared, like, if anything, if the audio in the movie is anything like this trailer, I don't think that's going to be the case. I think the noises when it brings up the title cards and just like dude, and it's just quiet, and I'm like, oh my gosh. The producers of It and The Ring, which honestly, maybe not It for me, but like The Ring, that's a movie that like the imagery has still stuck with me since the day I saw it for the first time. And I feel like this movie might do the same thing as well. I think it has the potential to. I also got, Truman Show vibes, or what's that one? Don't Worry, Darling, which is coming up. It gave me kind of vibes of that, where you do see like the pristine version of their house. I'm wondering if that is... Like, I've got a couple theories, and everyone that I've seen online is saying whatever you think it is, it's not. But I'm wondering if that's a reward for getting through hell. Like, this is one of the many entrances into hell, and then that's what's on the other side. Because I think there's like this voiceover of this like woman being like, you'll find the process pleasurable or something like that. And then, or maybe it's like a mix of like multiverse stuff where, it's or like maybe a mix of multiverse and like Severance, where like they're being harvested for their multidimensional selves are like bringing them through this house and then harvesting them for like their organs or something like that. Like, I don't know, man. But I like yourself. I'm not a horror person, but there's enough in this trailer that's making me really intrigued and ready to brave, watching it in a dark theater. So I'm really stoked.
I feel like I like horror movies for the way that they can infuse a sort of dialogue or conversation in and around the tropes of traditional horror movies. Like I did watch a lot of horror movies in university when I was doing a lot of like these film courses and stuff like that to understand genre and the sort of tropes of genre and specifically horror. And that in itself never does fully prepare you for the experience of when you go in and you watch a movie that feels like, as you described based on the sound, is so immersive. Even if you close your eyes, it's still terrifying you.
Yeah.
I think that even this trailer very much captures the power of that. So I'm excited to try to see if I can do this. So we'll see. Stay tuned for our review.
Yes.
And we'll find out I left halfway through.
Yeah, I'll be like, I'm like, Justin, how much did you actually watch, or were your eyes closed with noise canceling headphones on? Like, our next trailer is for Wednesday. This is a series directed by Tim Burton. The series will be a coming of age supernatural mystery comedy focusing on Wednesday Addams and her years as a high school student at Nevermore Academy, where she attempts to master her psychic powers, stop a monstrous killing spree of the town's citizens, and solve a supernatural mystery that affected her family 25 years ago, all while navigating her new relationships. This is starring Jenna Ortega as Wednesday, Luis Guzman, Catherine Zeta-Jones, Ricky Lindholm, Jamie McShane, and Gwendolyn Christie, and also Christina Ricci has been confirmed to be in the series, but obviously not playing Wednesday Addams. Rather, she will be an unknown role and has been reported to be playing a major character in the life of Wednesday Addams. This is streaming exclusively on Netflix with no date so far, but just says coming this fall. Justin, what did you think of our first look at Wednesday?
Well, look, you started this trailer time with a good comedy adventure. We got into the horror, and here is the sort of merging of the two.
Sure.
You got this comedy, dark comedy, horror-esque series that does seem to be very family-centric, but also at the same time pulling out one character to help center the series around Wednesday. I think this is going to be tons of fun. This trailer looks great. I think it's a refreshing take on the Addams family while still leaning into the nostalgia of them, of those characters and that look and that gothic vibe that is very reminiscent of the Addams family. I'm interested to see if we'll see some other characters like Uncle Fester, if I'm not mistaken, is his name,
right?
And Cousin It.
Cousin It would be
if
crazy.
They'll show up. If they just show up for like an episode or a referenced in some way. But I do like the idea of centering on one character in the family to help tell this larger story and still connect back to the family. Because I think maybe that's where the Addams family, it's great. That's been their anchor, the sort of dark family, if you will. But I like the idea of maybe steering it in a different direction to still tell a very meaningful story that's centered around the family.
Yeah, I will say I was a little worried at first with this trailer. I don't know what happened. I know there's like a big splash screen on the screen at some point in the trailer where it says like from director Tim Burton. But like before we got there, I got major Netflix's Chilling Adventures of Sabrina vibe. Which, did you ever watch the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina? Right? No, because like, yeah, same. Like I watched a lot of the first season and then fell off of it. And for me personally, like I found that that show didn't break far enough away from the CW. What is that, Riverdale sort of? I think they even did like a crossover with Riverdale. And like, honestly, dude, it's just that stuff isn't for me. And so I was really worried for this trailer based on what I saw until we get that title card that comes up and says directed by Tim Burton. And then I'm like, okay, you got me back. I think it looks great. It looks dark. The what does she have? Like those fish, the piranhas in the pool is just absolutely fantastic. So I think as long as they can stay away from the cheesy high school drama side of things and focus on her as a character and her almost not necessarily like I don't, they don't need to be completely devoid of a high school teenager's life, because obviously they're going to focus on her, becoming somewhat of a normal teenager with her friend that she meets and what have you, right? But I just don't want, like, don't get into like a love story, don't get into like all the just crap that comes out of the CW. And I think with Tim Burton behind it, I think that it's got the right people behind it. And I think the fact that it looks more like the comic books is a great way to set it apart from the live action versions that we've gotten before. And the snap that she does at the end is like iconic. So I think they've got the right people behind it. I'm going to go in a little apprehensive on this one.
For sure. And that's fair. I totally agree. I think that, from the mind of Tim Burton means that it is going to have a playful, dark nature to it. And I think what's always interesting is that with Tim Burton, especially if you think of things like Edward Scissorhands, even Beetlejuice to a certain degree, he's infusing his dark, sort of sadistic tone into the staple normality of every day. So I actually like that maybe this does feel a little CW, but then you throw in the Tim Burton vibe with this sort of dark, playful humor, which I hope skews far more dark, because I don't know, dropping a bunch of piranhas in a pool and that guy
got his nuts bitten off.
I don't. Yeah. So something's gonna happen to his junk for sure.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of blood. So I feel like just in that little bit alone, hopefully that's not the darkest that we got, because that's a huge spoiler. So I hope we get a little bit more darker. But the idea of even just infusing an adventure here, I like the idea of maybe her unraveling a mystery around deaths in the town, and maybe her family having some sort of connection to some sort of spiritual or monster level threat that is reigning terror in the town. So I don't know, it has the makings. I will wait and see how it is. I'm excited to see it though. I'm excited to see what it's all about.
I'm intrigued, to say the least. I think the girl they have playing Wednesday looks perfect for the role, and I think she'll obviously do a good job of carrying it. But I mean, the same thing was said about the actress that plays Sabrina, right? And that series again just didn't quite get there for me, and I don't know if it's gotten there for a lot of people. But that is it for trailer time. Let's go ahead and get into What Ya, Justin. I can't hold off any longer, my guy. I cannot hold off. It feels so good to be back in Westeros. Let's talk about House of the Dragon. We'll try to keep things spoiler free for like a few minutes, but then afterwards, like, we might just dive right into it. I don't even know, dude. Like, how did you feel about this first episode?
Well, first episode was great. Like you said, it's great to be back in Westeros. Like, even the way the landscape and seeing dragons fly amongst the castles and the town and whatnot. It was fantastic to be back, to hear the score.
Ramin Djawadi's score, dude. Like, the moment you get the I'm like, that's not fair. Like, that's not fair, dude. Like, you can't just do that to us. Oh my gosh.
And I think that that's what this first episode really just had to do. It just had to reintroduce us to the world that we know and love. And it had its sex, it had its gore. There was blood, there was fighting, there was some fucked up family tension, and some questionable romantic vibes that were going on.
Oh, yeah.
Between family members about quote unquote keeping things pure. Which are more implied than they are addressed, but we're Game of Thrones fans. We know that is the case, and that at this point in time where the stories are, what I love too in this first episode, just right off the top is that title card. There's a title card that shows up that kind of sets up where in the timeline of Game of Thrones series-esque where we are. So they write a spiel, and then it says 172 years before Daenerys,
and I love how they like really held your hand for that.
Fade out.
Yeah, they fade it out, so it just says 172 years Daenerys Targaryen, and you're like, okay, I know where we are. I get it. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, and well, you know how far removed you are,
right.
So that way, as a fan, you're not going to get Jon Snow references or Daenerys references.
We're not going to get the Mad King in this,
like
right? Like,
exactly. We're not getting that sort of stuff. So this takes place well before all of that. So, and it's nice to be so removed. I have to say it is nice, but to also to understand how familiar all of it feels at the same time, even though we're 172 years before the events of Daenerys.
I'm going to get a little bit more spoilery here. Like, if you want our spoiler-free thoughts completely, they're on our Twitter, but I thought there was a more storied opener. It was weird to hear narration for the first part of the episode, but the fact that it was done by Emma D'Arcy, who plays the older version of Rhaenyra, I think was cool, because I think that obviously ties into where we're going to see her probably in the next episode. But, dude, like, the dragons, man. Like, Rhaenyra's golden dragon, like, to just see her flying in on that was so dope. I honestly, young Rhaenyra is fantastic. I think, what's her name is, Millie Alcock is fantastic. I think she really carried this episode. I think the coolest thing about Game of Thrones is just how they manage to continue, and they do this in the show, they continue the sort of consistent feeling of like having you second guess all these characters, where like, Otto Hightower, right? At first I'm like, this guy's the only guy that's got his head on his shoulders. Like he's the hand of the king. He's trying to guide the king in the right direction. This guy, I like this guy. I like him. Played by Rhys Ifans, who is Doc Connors, right? And so I'm like, cool, this guy's great. But then we get to a moment where he starts setting up his daughter with King Viserys, like pimping her out, and I was just like, dude, like, no, you're an asshole now. Like it's just like it's crazy how quickly within one episode they can shift, and I think that's one of the best parts about Game of Thrones, where even with someone like Alicent, I'm like, cool, Alicent's dope. She seems like a great friend to Rhaenyra, and then all of a sudden, it kind of feels like she's going along with it, like she knows the plan. Like I don't know if she's so much a victim as she's also playing the game. Like,
she's an enabler. She's playing the game. Exactly,
man. Like,
but that is the overarching theme from Game of Thrones that finds its way 172 years before the events of Daenerys. Power, man. Like, and you don't trust anybody. Everybody's out for themselves, right? Like, again, everything about this first episode just felt overly familiar. Mm-hmm. At certain points, though, it did feel like it was just there for the sake of being there.
Sure.
Like, there's a kill scene. There's a bunch of kill scenes.
Daemon, like, creates the gold cloaks, and then they go and chop people's balls off, and
to show their strength and power,
right?
And that they won't tolerate thievery and all of this stuff. And it just all felt like it was happening for the sake of it, to just say this is Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
And then there's like a really, a sad sex scene, as you referenced, with that same character, Daemon.
And I read a reviewer or an article. It was like, he's the saddest boy at the orgy. Just like, he
exactly.
really is. Yeah.
And again, like, just another reminder that that's the sort of the level of adult maturity that goes into this series. You know what I mean? Like, some of it felt very much just there for the sake of it as a reminder of Game of Thrones, But to me, the far more interesting part was obviously the family dynamic, the sort of drama, the hunger for power, and the idea of you just can't trust anyone. And that to me, beyond the gore and the sex, is what makes Game of Thrones so interesting, because it's politics.
And I think like you said, like we get the politics. We see that this is a peaceful time for the kingdom and for the lands of Westeros, and it's but you can see all the whispers in the background, and the fact that we start off this episode with a brutal double, I guess, murder in a way of the king's wife and child, like that was. Like I had friends of mine who I talked to about this, and they're like, "Oh, I skipped that. I didn't watch I didn't watch that 7 minutes." And I'm like, "Dude, I did, but I understand why you might not, because that was brutal. That was absolutely brutal." And the fact that that's our first episode, like I would expect that from like a season 2 thing or a season 3 thing for the show, but I guess because we're already here after seeing Game of Thrones, like they're expecting that you've already lived through those types of experiences with Game of Thrones. They're like, cool, you can feel like crap right away.
It did set a tone, but again, I feel like it injected that element for the sake of it. Like you said, for those Game of Thrones fans who have stuck through this entire series and have come all that way, for them to see something like that, it's kind of like, oh, that's to be expected. I liked what they ended off with, and really just affirming her as an heir to Daenerys, as the next in kin for
Viserys. There's so many names
for Viserys.
I'm never going to be upset with you, Justin, for getting these names incorrectly pronounced, because honestly, like, and that's the thing too, like I spent the entire, I think it's like an hour and something minutes, like I spent the entire time like hearing like, oh, they said Baratheon, oh, they said Rickon Stark, oh, and it's like I had to keep reminding myself, no, dude, this is 172 years earlier. Obviously, there's going to be family names,
their lineage,
right? Obviously, there's going to be lineage.
Yeah, there's their lineage,
but we're not. This is not going to directly connect in any way, and I think that's what's for me really exciting about it. And I know that there's a lot of people that have read the books that these are based on, but I'm just happy to be back in Westeros, but with like a void of knowledge in a way, in a sense, just knowing that like, hey, we're so far removed. Literally anything can happen. It's so fresh and so new for me. And yeah, I will say though, I would be down. Like, I know we're getting more. Like, this is a spinoff. We're getting more spinoffs with the. There's like a. Isn't there there's a Jon Snow series already in development that he talked about. But like, dude, imagine like a House of the Wolf. The story of Bran the Builder, like I think that would be really dope. I mean, or like they could do something like they could show us Robert's Rebellion, right? Like House of the Stag, right? And just continue this theming of like the House of the. I don't know. I think that would be really cool. Like if they wanted to keep these spinoffs going. I know that I always talk all the time. I talk crap about like the fact that like that Walking Dead has like 900 different spinoffs. And it's just like, stop with the spinoffs.
Sure.
And here I am like, give me 9 spinoffs of Game of Thrones. But
here is a world. Here's a world that does kind of have the merit to go the distance with that.
Yeah.
I also think that a lot of the success of Game of Thrones with that backstory is the fact that we don't see it, that we don't see all those elements, and that they chose to show us specific things. You know, like the birth of Jon Snow and whatnot from Ned Stark at a young age, and his interaction and so on and so forth through Bran and obviously all the stuff that we did get to see of the past. So what's nice is that they're going back, and they're going very far back to the events that were referenced in the series but were never fully delved into. Right. Whereas like, you know, Robert's Rebellion, I think we delved into that to a certain point, that very much the events of Game of Thrones were very much influenced by the events of Robert's Rebellion.
Right, I guess, yeah.
Right. You know what I mean? Like, so it's nice that we're outside of that as well in terms of where this story picks up, that, as you mentioned, it's fresh, it's new, but it still feels familiar. It's a new power struggle story that is going to unfold. So yeah,
the only negative I'll say, I think, like this premiere really blew me away. Like I honestly think it was fantastic. But I will say the opening credits was very lacking for me. Like the golden dragon symbol
Next episode.
in comparison. You think they will? You think they're going to have an opening?
It was confirmed.
Oh, really?
It was confirmed.
Okay. My theory, I'm going to predict it now, and then we'll see if I'm right. I think, you know how King Viserys is carving out in like that white stone? He's carving what looks like the Red Keep or King's Landing, like he's carving it all out. That's what we fly across, is that carving. Like we get to see different parts of that, and it's all in white because, like, again, that's very much a color of the Targaryens, right? Like their pure white hair and everything. So I think I could totally see them just flying around that. That's my theory. Hopefully I'm correct, and then I'll win $1 million. That's how that works. Well, we'll see. That is it for This Week in Geek. We hope you enjoyed this week's episode. And if you did, make sure to subscribe to us wherever you like to listen to podcasts. And if you want to write into the show with your thoughts on this week's news or any of the content we cover here, well, listen, let me just, I'm going to just send you over to Justin with a mighty dragon, like, roar. Can you put that in post, Justin? Ah! Like replace what I just did, but with a dragon roar. Okay?
I don't think I will,
No,
but they can reach us at wearegeekcentric@gmail.com. That's wearegeekcentric@gmail.com. Or they can reach out to us on Twitter at GeekcentricYT or on Instagram at wearegeekcentric. And hey, while you're there, why don't you give us a follow? Take a look at our stuff. See what we're up to.
Totally. Keep in mind, we have a ton of other great episodes covering the latest in movies, TV shows, and games, as well as we have an interview out right now. We actually have 2 interviews in the same episode with director of She-Hulk, attorney-at-law Kat Coiro, and head writer and executive producer Jessica Gao. Justin got a chance to sit down with them and discuss the various ways in which they implemented their own experiences into She-Hulk. So you can definitely check that out on podcast services, but you can also check it out on YouTube at youtube.com/geekcentric if you want to see our beautiful faces. And definitely check out Jessica Gao's shirt that she was wearing. Absolutely phenomenal. Also, if that's not enough for you, we also have our spoiler-free reviews for Marvel's I Am Groot, Netflix's Day Shift, and The Sandman, also from Netflix. We have a spoiler-free review for Skydance Animation's Luck, as well as Prey from Hulu and Disney+. We also have our weekly Watch Club, where we break down and give our theories weekly with our current Watch Club for She-Hulk, Attorney-at-Law, coming out on the same day as the episodes on Disney+ for the next 2 weeks, and then on Fridays after episode 3. And lastly, we are super stoked to let you know that Geekcentric has been accredited for Fan Expo Canada 2022. We have no idea what we're going to be doing there or who we're going to get a chance to speak to, but we are just, hopefully you are just as excited as we are. So definitely, subscribe, click the bell, click on the thing, do all the things, subscribe to our socials, and leave us, again, a 5-star review if you don't mind. Justin, thank you so much for joining me for This Week in Geek. And as we say, love ya.
Peace.